So we're going to solve equations, right? Quadratic equations. Completing the square. Right. Now, we have here, keep in mind the steps, right? Isolate all our terms. So we're going to just do a few examples here. We got x squared plus 8x minus 5 equals 0. So when you're solving these, right, you got everything on one side equal to 0. We might try to factor this. Factors of 5 to subtract 8. It's not going to work. Factoring doesn't work. So solve by completing the square. So the first step, isolate your terms. X squared and 8x. Right? Isolate those terms. So x squared plus 8x equals 5. Leave a little space there. Now we're going to, what we say is complete the square. So keep in mind, what do? We take half of 8. So you can go over here on the side if you want. 8 over 2, which is 4. And then we got to take 4 and square it. Gives me 16. So this is the number that we have to add to both sides. Okay. Now, I made this side factorable. Right? I made it a perfect square trinomial. So now, when we're doing this process, every single time we do it, that means this is going to turn to a binomial squared. Okay. So now, I have what? Inside here, x, then plus, whatever sign is there goes here. In this case, a plus. Half of 8. What is half of 8? Right there, 4. I have factored it now into a binomial square. Over here, 21. Now, take the square root on both sides. Do not forget the plus minus the square root of 21. Over here, the square root here of x plus 4 squared is equal to x plus 4 equals plus minus the square root of 21. And lastly, subtract 4 on both sides. And we have our solutions of negative 4 plus minus the square root of 21. Okay. There we go. Get this irrational solution. We actually have two, right? We have x equals negative 4 plus the square root of 21, or x equals negative 4 minus the square root of 21. So that's the process. Let's do another one here. We got x squared plus 8x, or plus 12x plus 8 equals 0. We might start and say factors of 8 that add to 12. Okay, well, we can't find factors of 8 to add to 12, so that's out. Let's try completing the square. Move the 8 over. Isolate your variables. X squared plus 12x equals, over here, negative 8. Now we take half of 12. What's 12 over 2? 6. Square 6. 36. So that's what we add to both sides. You add 36 to this side, add 36 to this side. That adding of the 36 makes this a perfect square trinomial, which means it is the result of a binomial square. Over here, 36 minus 8, 28. What goes inside? Well, x, again, plus whatever sign's there. Half of 12, there it is, 6. Done. Now we take the square root on both sides. Square root of the stuff on the left plus minus the square root of the stuff on the right. the square root of the stuff on the left equals, now over here, I think, the previous one, the square root of 21, right? Well, 21 is 7 times 3, right? So that's not going to simplify. The square root of 7 doesn't simplify, the square root of 3. Over here, though, you got to think to simplify. Always want to simplify here, right? What is the square root of 28? 28, right here, just doing on the side, that's equivalent to the square root of 4 times 7. What's the square root of 4? 2. So this becomes 2 times the square root of 7. That's what the square root of 28 is simplified. Then the plus and minus, throw in front, right there. And then one more step is subtract 6, and we have x equals negative 6 plus minus 2 times the square root of 7. Okay. There's that one. And let's do one more here. So solve one more. X squared minus 4x plus 8 equals 0. Try to factor. Everything's on one side equals 0. Might as well try to factor first. Factors of 8 to add to 4 doesn't work. So now let's complete the square. X squared minus 4x, leave a space, equals negative 8. Now we take half of 4, right? 4 over 2 equals 2. Then we take 2, square it, get 4. So that's what we got to add to both sides. Plus 4 plus 4. We now have a perfect square trinomial. This is going to factor into a binomial squared. X, sign, goes in the middle, minus half of 4. Half of 4 is 2. Over here, negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4. Now we take the square root on both sides. Plus minus the square root of negative 4. The left side becomes x minus 2. Now what about the right side? Well, what do we have? The square root of a negative 4. That's an imaginary solution right away. Well, what's the square root of 4? 2. And then a negative underneath is always going to come out as an I. Out. Not under the square root anymore. It's outside. So in this case, this simplifies nicely to just plus minus 2i. And now, solving for x, well, we add 2 and we get 2 plus minus 2i. Okay, so there's our solution. X equals 2 plus or minus 2i. So this takes care of solving quadratic equations by completing the square. And for every one of these, keep in mind, for every one of these, we had a 1x squared, right, to start. A 1x squared. Or here, a 1x squared. All right, there's going to be another first step that we got to apply when that's something other than 1. Okay, so watch this over. All right, take some notes, think about it. Let me know if you have any questions.